Dr. Sharma, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the association. I think there's a strong association of magic and miracles and Hinduism and gurus and that kind of thing. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, okay. I think one has to distinguish between popular Hinduism and what you might call intellectual Hinduism. In popular Hinduism, magic, miracles, and all play the same role which they do in popular religion anywhere. But when we come to the more intellectual side of Hinduism, there's an interesting contrast between Christianity and Hinduism, which tells us, something about both Hinduism and Christianity. When the Gospels were first published into Indian languages by a Hindu scholar, he left out all the miraculous events of Jesus' life, to the consternation of the missionaries. And he pointed it out to them that the feats which Jesus performed are considered very ordinary feats in the Hindu imagination. And so he was really doing a favor to them by eliminating them from the account, because Hindus might wonder if this is all this person could do. This is kind of fear of the mill kind of thing in the miraculous dimension of Hinduism. The point being that whereas in Christianity, the miracles of Christianity, of Jesus, are supposed to be of probative value of the truth of Christianity, in Hindu thought, they rarely possess such probative value. You cannot prove a spiritual principle in Hinduism, by citing miracles and proof of it, as proof of it. Now, why is this so? It is curiously, a supernatural phenomena in the West is considered supernatural in distinction to the natural. The natural you can explain by natural laws, and for the supernatural then you have to use theology and other avenues. Instinctively in Hindu thought, supernatural phenomena is supposed to have its own laws. It's like natural phenomena. And to go beyond that means you have to be on your own turf now. All this is part of the natural world because these gifts can be acquired, just as certain physical attributes can be developed, attributes of the body, strength and all, by exercising regularly. By undertaking certain mental exercises, you can acquire the gift of telepathy, clairvoyance, etc. All this belongs to this world. There is nothing supernatural about it or spiritual about it. So I think this is a very important distinction, that spiritual does not by and large involve the miraculous in the usual sense. That's of this world. So to a certain extent, this optics is misleading. It's their part of popular Hinduism, but it's not at the heart of Hinduism. Heart of Hinduism is the spirituality part. And the relationship of the miraculous to the spiritual is almost viewed with suspicion in certain circles. In fact, there are even popular anecdotes which do not redound to the credit of possessing miraculous powers. There is a well-known anecdote about two religious figures having a discussion, and one of them claimed that he could walk on water, and he thought that this would be to his credit, that he could walk on water and the other person could not. And the other person said that I consider your achievement worth 5 rupees. He said, why is it so? And he said, I can pay 5 rupees to the boatman to take me across the river. You can walk across it, I can be ferried across it. This again takes us back to the view of this person who published the Gospels, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and his take on the Gospels, the miracles in the Gospels. And then these gifts are supposed to come to religious adept in any of the Indian religions. So Hindus cannot score on the Buddhists by saying that I can perform this miracle. Buddhists can do the same, and Jains can do the same, and Sikhs can do the same if they want to, to go into that area. So all this is kept at a spiritual level, before the spiritual level. And it is not in Western, not in Christianity. So to that extent, this is misleading. The other interesting aspect of this is that some of these gifts are supposed to represent the outcome of moral perfections, which is a very interesting point in the sense that to the extent that miracle is not only supernatural but maybe extra-moral, belong to another realm which may have its own laws, moral laws and so on. Not in the Buddhist way of looking at it. In the Yoga Sutras, the famous text of Patanjali, you are told how some of these gifts will be acquired, the kind of meditations you need to undertake to acquire them, and there is also the connection made between spiritual perfection, moral perfection of certain qualities and these gifts. For instance, the gift that whatever one says comes true is supposed to be the crowning achievement of perfecting truthfulness. Almost suggesting that if you only say what is true, which is telling the truth, what you say will start becoming true. And so on. So I think in these ways, the miraculous element in Hinduism is very much there, but it is considered ordinary fare in the spiritual realm and rarely used as proof. Is it proof of your powers, not of truth?
So if I can ask you, this might be a bit of a detour, but the word guru, my understanding is that it means heavy. Is that correct? Does that relate to mean, does that relate to this discussion at all, or?
I don't think the word guru can be directly connected to the miraculous dimension. It's favored interpretation within the tradition, probably more traditional than critical, is one who dispels darkness. Its more formally accepted meaning in the lexicon is something heavy. And you might want to refine it by saying a guru is somebody whose words carry weight. Yeah. A weighty person or somebody whose words carry weight. But now gurus may, now this is an interesting point, gurus may use their so-called powers to induce you to follow the path which leads to the truth. I mean, the example would be if you become my disciple and while you are in Eton's, suddenly I appear to you, present there.
I'm in Eden's, the star.
Right? And then it might encourage you to think of me as a genuine guru in the sense that he possesses some powers which are associated with the spiritual path, which can also become a hindrance on the spiritual path, but which are associated with the spiritual path. So if my credibility with you is raised by demonstration of these powers, but I know of people who have regretted that they wasted their life acquiring these powers. Instead of pursuing a spiritual practice. Mm-hmm. I think the point which emerges is that the spiritual in Hinduism is transcendental. It is not just supernatural. It transcends both natural and the supernatural. I think the same is true of Buddhism. The Buddha did perform certain miracles to convince doubters. But he also frowned upon any display of these powers by his disciples. And certainly, nirvana has very little to do with these powers. So there are two routes to achieving nirvana in at least Theravada Buddhism. They're called Cheto Vimutti and Panya Vimutti. And that is one which through the mind, pacifying the mind and the stages of meditation, and the other is sheer insight. The penny just drops. And if you choose the former, the Cheto Vimutti, then you get the powers. In the other, there are no powers, there's just ultimate insight. So there is even the sophistication of connecting the powers with the paths, at least in Buddhism.